good evening, and welcome to episode 34 of Nightmare Theater, an open book club for nightmares. If you're new here, what we do is we read viewer nightmares as well as nightmares from Reddit. And if you have a nightmare that you'd like me or my guest to read, you can send it as an email to theforgottengrove@gmail.com. If there's time at the end of this week's broadcast, we'll read it then. And if there's no time, then I'll read it next week. Simple as that. So I'd like to start by introducing my guest, Marie LivesTheHorror. Welcome to Nightmare Theater.
Hello. Thank you for having me here.
Excellent. It's a pleasure to have you. And before we get into some of these Reddit nightmares, I'd like to start, Marie, by asking you, if any, what do you think would be the scariest nightmare you've ever had?
Okay, do have one from when I was a teenager that was really significant because of what happened after I woke up. And I never had a nightmare like that again that was that physically intense. So I can share that one.
Please do.
So I was 15, and we had just moved into a new house, and we weren't fully done unpacking yet. I remember I was really exhausted and really tired, and as soon as my head hit the pillow, I was automatically asleep. And which is weird because I have trouble falling asleep right away. It takes me a while for me to shut my brain down and finally fall asleep. But I immediately fell asleep. And I woke up in my nightmare. I was walking through a forested area, and there was a path that was the only thing that I could see I had to walk on. And I don't really know where it was. I didn't really recognize anything. And everything had this purple blurry haze to it, and I couldn't focus clearly on anything that was in front of me. And all I remember thinking in my nightmare was I have to keep walking on this path and try to make it to the end of the path. That's all I could think of. And I started to get anxious, and this really weird feeling came over me. My body started to get really hot and warm. And it was weird feeling. I thought about it after the fact. It was such a strange feeling in a dream because it wasn't real heat. It was just the sensation of a really hot day, and my body was getting warm. Then I started to feel anxious, so I wanted to walk as quickly as I could to try to get to the end of this path. And the quicker I walked, I realized that I really wasn't moving anywhere. I wasn't getting anywhere. And I started to panic a little bit. So I tried to start running. But in your dreams, your movements are so different. If you try to punch something, you can't really make a physical force to try to feel it. I don't know. It's weird in dreams, the way you do movements and the way that you feel things. And so I tried to run, but I wasn't really running. I wasn't moving anywhere. And then I literally felt like someone had thrown a net over me and was pulling on the net, and I couldn't move. I couldn't move my legs. I tried to run. I was panicking. And then out of nowhere, whatever was pulling on the net, let me go. And I fell really hard to the ground. And my chin hit the floor, and my teeth clacked up. And in my dream, it hurt, but it felt weird. I don't know. Feelings in dreams, physical feeling in dreams, is really strange. And anyway, I get up, and I realized that the ground underneath me had changed, and it was like this black, smooth floor. It wasn't asphalt, or I don't know. It was really smooth, and it didn't have any texture. And I get up, and I don't know where I was. I was not in a room. Everywhere around me was really, really dark. wasn't a room. I didn't see walls, I didn't see doors, I didn't see windows. It was just like darkness everywhere. And then like out of nowhere, I physically feel like two hands on my shoulders, and they're trying to push me down to get me to kneel. And I'm like, I try to resist it, and then out of nowhere, like it violently pushes me down and like forced me to kneel. And then it freaks me out every time I think about it. I felt like some big huge bug start crawling up my back, like slowly up my spine, and it made my skin crawl, and I got goosebumps all over. And it was like trying to crawl up my back up to my neck. And then I realized, like, at that moment, like, this isn't real. And I realized that, like, I don't know how consciously I realized it, that I was in a nightmare. And I was telling myself to wake up, trying to force myself to wake up before whatever was on my back, like, reached the back of my neck. And I woke up eventually. And this is the freakiest part. And I promise you, like, it was such a strange thing that happened after I woke up that I don't know, I was 15. It was a long time ago. And I don't really trust what I felt. But I woke up. I was physically awake now. And I'm laying on my back. I'm laying on my stomach. And I could still feel whatever it is on my back. But my face is laying on my left side, so I'm facing towards my closet door. And I literally felt a hand on my face, and it slowly pushed my face into the inside of the pillow. So it was so weird. And I couldn't move. Like, I was trying to move my face to the left or to the right, or to kick my legs, or to push myself up, and I couldn't move. Like something was trying to suffocate me. And then I got like, yeah, like, I don't know, it was so strange. And then, I'm in my head and I'm freaking out because I'm losing air. And you're freaking out, you're gonna lose air because you're trying to breathe. And like, at that moment, I got angry, and I said in my head, like, get the hell off of me. Like, whatever it is, like, get the fuck off. Mm-hmm. And I was angry. And then at that moment, I was able to completely push myself up. And I got up, and I got out of bed. I turned on my light. I looked everywhere, and I was so freaked out. And I didn't go back to sleep. But like, for over at least an hour, I could still feel something on my back. Like, it was such a physical, intense feeling. And like, for at least an hour, the feeling didn't go away. And I was freaked out. Like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I went into the hallway, and everyone was asleep still. Like, it was the middle of the night. My brother was asleep. My parents were sleeping. And I didn't go back to sleep. I was too freaked out. But that was definitely a significant nightmare.
Wow. Did you go try to like look at your back in the mirror?
I did. I like checked my back multiple times and to see if there was anything there, and there was nothing. There wasn't any indication that there was anything on my back. Like, there was no scratches, there wasn't anything. It was the feeling of something heavy on my back. And then, like, it almost felt like a spider, almost, because I could feel like individual, like, I don't know, whatever, hands or legs or something, like, going up my spine. Yeah.
That's bizarre.
It was so weird, but I never had another nightmare like that since that nightmare. So I don't know what that was about. And the whole, like, feeling a hand on my face and getting my face pushed into my pillow, like, never felt like that ever again after that night. And I know there's people that suffer from, like, sleep paralysis. I've never personally had that happen, and I don't know, like, I can't confirm what happened to me with that nightmare was sleep paralysis. Because it never happened again to that extent. I never had another nightmare like that since. So I don't know if it was sleep paralysis. I don't know if it was like, I don't know. I kind of just convinced myself that I did it to myself. Because, I mean, I was a teenager and going through, like, moving is really stressful to deal with. Plus, I was 15, so I'm like a hormonal teenager. So your energy has a lot to do with it too. And I was exhausted, and I kind of just played it off. Like, now that I'm like an adult, I kind of just played it off, and I'm like, well, maybe I did it to myself. Like, I pushed my own face into the pillow, and for whatever reason, I couldn't move. I don't know. Oh.
Do you have any idea what the first part of the nightmare might mean? Like walking down the path and then feeling like you can't move.
Yeah, I think that had to do with, and I mean, I'm just speculating now, but I was going through a lot of different changes during that time with my family and moving and having to start over again in a new school and everything like that. And I think that had to do a lot with it. Like, I don't know, maybe my subconscious had created this path for me to walk on. And my brain was telling me, it's not going to be easy to stay on the path and get to the end of the path. And maybe that was a representation of how I was feeling at the time. I felt like, I can't stay on the path. It's hard to stay on the path and to keep going. And you're a teenager, so you're always going to feel like that. You're always going to feel like everything is so hard, everything is so difficult. You're never going to reach the end of the path. So I think that had a lot to do with it. So that part of the dream was, I think, an interpretation of my own anxiety that I was dealing with at the time.
All right. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good interpretation. I was thinking like a similar thing with the, almost like the metaphor of the path that you're trying to walk down. So that's interesting. All right, so now we're going to get into reading some nightmares from Reddit. I just wanted to let the audience know one other thing that I want to test on this stream. So I actually got a comment after the last one that was saying it was awkward when my guest was reading, and it was just my face like looking around. So I have this new scene that I made, and you can see me press the button, and I just disappear. It's like the same room. Slightly different camera angle, but anyway, so I'll play that, and it has music that's built into it as well. So we'll test that out a couple times, and if that's even weirder, then we'll just not do it. But you can let me know, you can let me know in the comments.
Well, I guess we'll give it a shot and see how it goes. Hopefully it's not weird.
Exactly. All right, so would you like to do the honors of reading that first one there?
Sure, I'll read the first one. Let me know and I'll start.
Yep. Go for it. And also, if you don't mind, read who it's by and the title.
Okay. So the first one is by Visible Sail 3677. Just had the most terrifying dream I've ever had. Last night, I had a dream that started out pretty normal. Then, I was hit in the head. The dream, of course. And woke up in what seemed to be a subway. The only problem was that the entire place was blurry and bleached white. In the corner of the room, there was a ribcage. I should warn, this is a bit graphic. I was stabbed 7 times from behind. Whatever did it was humming cheerily the whole time. It was all black. I was in what I thought was a vault now. Everything was still white. A voice echoed in my brain now, saying a name that I will try my best to write out, but it won't be accurate. Chachulu. Wait dreaming in the golden core. That repeated a couple of times before what I assume was Chulu was in front of me, twitching. The voice rose, and I woke up. And that's that.
Very interesting. So, I don't know. I almost got like the vibe I got from this one was sort of some sort of like ancient Sumerian or ancient like Mesopotamian being or god or something appearing before the dreamer.
It's strange. It seems really like chaotic in the dream because it was just she was there alone, or whoever this is, it was there alone, and then out of nowhere just started getting stabbed. That was really chaotic, and then what was the point of saying that to the person? Wait, dreaming in the golden core.
I know, it sounds like some kind of ancient prophecy or something.
Like, it's almost like ritualistic in a sense. Like, it needed to say that to the person.
I really don't know how I would interpret this though, but it's a really I really enjoy the vibe of this nightmare.
Yeah, I think we need more detail to that. Like, try to flesh that out a little more in order to like interpret it.
I agree with you. So I'll go ahead and read the second nightmare. So this is a post by a user named Honorable Assassins. The post is titled Itchy Man. The post reads, I've had maybe 3 real nightmares because I don't have the freeze up or run reflexes most people do. If something scares me, I tend to more instinctively square up. A dream that starts scary usually ends in me picking up a chair or something. I had one nightmare that shook me to my core though. I was 16 at the time, but in the dream I had a bushy beard and was definitely like mid-30s or later, and was sitting at a little workbench in what I thought was my home basement, cleaning a disassembled shotgun. From behind me, I hear a little girl say, Daddy, and somehow in the dream I just know it's my daughter, because apparently I had one. And she says it again, and sounds scared. I turn around, and the door that normally leads to the stairs that went up to my house is a barred door like you'd see on a jail, and instead of straight up the stairs, curve off sideways and go up to the sunlight. So it clicks. I'm in some kind of bunker or bomb shelter. The little girl goes, Daddy, let me back in, please. And I notice a big-ass hand on her waist from around the corner. I freeze, because it's not me in danger, it's someone else. Behind a barred door I can't reach. The hand owner shuffles closer, and it's this morbidly obese, 40-year-old looking guy with a hand on her waist, moves around to be on her back. Daddy, it's the itchy man. And then the dude starts scratching the side of his face and takes the flesh off, like he's clawing his cheek off like it's rotten. Then the girl starts clawing his side into his side as well. The girl gets quiet, and her eyes look wrong, glassy. I notice the hand that was on her hip is now stabbing her in the back, and he's smiling. I turn around, and suddenly the disassembled shotgun is together via magic dreek bullshit, and a key off the desk, and I run forward and unlock the door. The man is gone. I kneel down to hold her. Then I hear gross laughter from directly above me and look up to see him right there. Woke up so fast I literally leapt out of bed, cold sweat, hand on my heart, wondering if I was about to have a heart attack. Straight up anxiety attack. One of 3 I've had in my life. Was almost fully lucid too. Nothing about it felt dreamlike. Even after I woke up, I was convinced it was real. Well, I did what was it? Back when I used to do presentations on Nightmare Theater, I did one about premonitory dreams, and it said of premonitory dreams that they often have a high degree of realism. So maybe this girl isn't your daughter yet, maybe you haven't met the itchy man yet. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
just for me to take the most nuclear interpretation possible right off the bat.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that too. Like, I feel like this could be his daughter in the future. I mean, I don't know about the whole itchy man thing, knock on wood, and that's just maybe some sort of anxiety he has. But yeah, let's make sure itchy man stays away from that little girl.
For sure. But it's also like a kind of a common trope in some horror, just the idea of an itch becoming, more than an itch in the flesh falling off or peeling off or whatever it is. And I'm not sure where that comes from, but it does seem to be like kind of a common fear in humans that, like, I mean, I don't know how I would interpret that fear, and I know for a fact that I don't have anything from the internet on it, but it's almost maybe like a fear of your own mortality, or a fear of, just the fact that it really isn't
Fragile.
Yeah.
Like, humans are so fragile, and in your dream, you're open to like a whole other reality where you're fragile. It's going to show you how fragile you are, so.
I heard something else that's kind of semi off topic, but it's freaky. It's a freaky thought. It's a good thing to bring up, I think. Just they say that biting through your own finger is about as easy or difficult as biting through a carrot stick, but you just have a psychological barrier that prevents you from doing it.
That's so strange. That must be a thing with our minds. Like, our body just knows, like, hey, that's not a carrot, so don't bite through that.
But that's an uncomfortable thought, just thinking of your own finger as being that fragile.
Yeah, and it's so strange that's what I was trying to say, like, with my own nightmare. The way that you feel things in a nightmare is everyone, I guess, it's up to your own perception, but because you're not really biting yourself, or you're not really feeling heat, or you're not really punching something or whatever. Like, physical things are so different in dreams, and your mind recognizes it as a feeling, but then your own mind protects you from, hey, don't actually kick your leg up when you're dreaming, or don't actually bite yourself. So it's strange. They're connected, but then they're not connected.
Absolutely.
If you get what I mean.
Would you do us the honor of reading Nightmare 3?
Yes, okay. Let's see. All right, the next one is by The Anxious Person, and it's titled My Lucid Nightmare Experience. This nightmare happened when I was around 11 years old. I had moved into a new house. I had to leave my old one because a fire had occurred and we had to leave. Ever since that day, I have gotten flashbacks to seeing the fire. Even the slightest sight of a flame sends me back to that moment. But anyway, so I was in our new house. It was a pretty nice looking place, good back garden, and a staircase with a wooden handlebar. So I was about to go to sleep. But before I went, I looked out the window. I saw the neighbors in the next house to us having a barbecue in their garden, and a big flame struck out of it. And that's what I'm sure caused the start of the nightmare, which I will get into now. I went to sleep. I remember hearing crackling sounds, and I woke up. Well, at least I was half awake, in a lucid nightmare. So I stood up. I felt cold. I could see my own breath. It was so cold. I walked outside of my room. I was following the sound of crackling. It was extremely dark. Next thing I knew, I was downstairs in the living room of the house. I look outside the window. There was nothing but a sea of darkness. I was sure I could see things, sort of figures in the darkness, looking in my direction. Then I started seeing a light, getting slowly brighter, and embers floating in front of me. I quickly turned around, but when I turned around, it was still dark. So I turned to look out the window, and I suddenly fell to the floor. I felt heat on my skin getting warmer and warmer until I couldn't stand the pain anymore. I looked around. My family was around me, but they didn't look like them. They had no eyes, but I knew it was them. All they had was a massive smile on their face with small, sharp, jagged teeth. They were laughing at me. I started screaming. I was terrified. And I looked at my arms. Part of the skin on my arms had burned off, but I could feel the pain from it, as if it was real life. Then I suddenly woke up. It turns out that I had scratched the skin off my arms and my face. I was bleeding a lot. I ran into my parents' room. They phoned an ambulance, and that's all I remember from that night.
Holy
Wow.
shit.
Wow, we were just talking about like your mind protecting you from doing certain things when you're dreaming. Wow.
Yeah. Wow, I mean, that actually almost reminds me of yours a bit, but like taken almost to the next level, right? Like you
Yeah.
have the warmth that's growing more intense, and then you have a physical thing that, like then translates into the real world. But that's, yeah, and also scratching off. Yeah, it relates to the last nightmare as well. That's so creepy.
Yeah. But I the one thing with her nightmare is that she had a trigger that physically happened to them, like her house was burnt down and they had to move because of it. So she had that connection to whatever this was. So I think that must have pushed it to the next level for her in terms of anxiety and her not having control over scratching her arms and her face. So.
Did she say at any point that she feels responsible for like starting the fire?
No, she did not.
Because
No.
I almost feel like that, like, because her nightmare kind of suggests to me that she does.
Well, she didn't really go into like full detail of how the fire happened or what was it that happened. She just mentioned that they had to leave the house because it caught on fire. So, but she must have either witnessed it or was in the fire because she has flashbacks of seeing the fire, and her seeing fire kind of triggers that memory for her. So she must have had some involvement. I mean, either she was in the fire or she saw it start. But I wish we could ask her.
Yeah.
I think it would help us interpret this a little bit more.
I just feel like the fact that there's people laughing at her, that to me suggests some feeling of like shame or guilt, whether or not there was, responsibility.
And she was 11, so maybe, I don't know. I mean, unless we're able to ask her and, see what was involved and what started the fire. I mean, you're 11, so you're a kid. And if fire starts, there's not much in your control of what you can do, especially if the fire's out of control,
Yeah, I've got one more sort of nerd remark to make about this one, and then I'll read nightmare number 4. But one thing that I wanted to mention is that this is a night terror rather than a nightmare because she was moving during it. In a nightmare, you are, of course, paralyzed due to atonia, which happens during REM sleep, which is not present in a nightmare, which is how she was able to harm herself. So, yeah, just a bit of a comment there, not really relevant to the interpretation, but is still kind of a freaky thought. Anyway, this is...
So the fact... Oh, I'm sorry. I just...
Go ahead.
So because of the fact that she started moving and physically hurting herself, that turned it into a night terror.
Yeah, well, I mean, it must have been a night terror, or she could not have done that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Explains it. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. So this is a nightmare by a user named _LilCookie. The post is titled, a demon whispering while drawing a complete circle. The post reads, "Today at 5 a.m., I fell asleep for just a minute while texting. I dreamed about a demon pulling a child from his leg and attacked them, then whispered in my ears saying, 'If you want to save this child, say monster, Allah, Allah,' as if it's asking me to repeat its words while almost drawing a complete circle and holding my shoulder. It felt like I woke up from sleep paralysis and my whole body starts hurting. I even felt that it was something staring at me from behind. This all happened in 1 minute, by the way. Every time I close my eyes, those words always come up and keep repeating itself." That's
No.
no.
Wow, that is really intense. And she was only asleep for a minute. Wow, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, it could be like fears instilled into them by their religion, possibly. I've actually been reading, not directly reading, but reading some of the like Pseudo-Monarchium Demonum, which is this grimoire written in like the 1500s, and it talks about all these demons in like Judeo-Christian religion. There are 72 of them, apparently, greater demons, that is, and they're like respective ranks in hell. And there is actually, like, in this text, the original is written in Latin, and it literally describes like all these demons, what they do, and then also how to summon them. And at different hours of the day, different ranks of demons can be bound. By the way, if anyone in the audience is interested, I've been talking about all of these demons in my TikToks, so you can check out my TikTok in the description. But yeah, like that's
very creepy.
Yeah, it reminded me of this one here. Like, and I'm not really a superstitious person, but I would not try that. You know, I would.
Yeah,
not,
no.
I would not try.
I'm superstitious for sure. And, you know, the paranormal is something I love to dive into. Mm-hmm. But this seems like, I mean, the dream was so short. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, but I mean, you never know when it comes to dark things like that. Like, they could find any kind of opening to try to manipulate you or try to make you feel a certain way. Like, this obviously affected them because, you know, they say every time they close their eyes, they see the words come up and repeating itself. You know, maybe that's what this thing wanted. You know, never forget about me. I'm always going to be in your head. Mm-hmm. So that's an opening, you know, and yeah, that's creepy.
Well, yeah. The next one's a very long one, number 5, but then you will have a bit of a break on number 7. If you would.
Oh, okay. All right, so this next one is by Lamb Deleth, and it's titled "The Worst One I've Had in a While." I usually like nightmares because I'm a horror junkie and find they are like horror movies my brain makes for me. But some truly disturb me, and I just woke up from one and haven't been able or wanting to fall back to sleep, so here it is. It started with me winning some sort of sweepstakes, where I won an early demo of some VR horror game or something, and some other junk. I was most excited about the game, so I tried it out. Whenever I play games or watch movies and nightmares and dreams, I'm always immediately put into them. This one made less sense than usual. I was first in this factory sort of setting, and it was dark and creepy. Nothing actually popped out or anything. Next, I was outside, basically in R.E. Village, with Lady Dimitrescu walking around with but not hostile and the merchant nearby. I think we were both there for different wares, which was honestly more funny than scary. But then it took a different turn. It was late at night, and I was walking with some friends from my new city and some from my old town, including someone I really dislike. for some reason was happy to reconnect with. Anyway, this weird collection of people I knew from work or high school or university all ended up going into a building that looked similar to the factory from the first part, and went down some winding stairs into a pretty dingy basement area with different sections. Hallways full of doors and a large bar-like area with tables and everything. We all sat at the bar area, and a host came out and told us something like this being the greatest show or game show or something. I know it had multiple rounds, like 5 rounds, but don't remember any details from the first 2 except that it was fun. Round 3. We were gathered around one of the hallways, and some people in medical gowns were thrown down the hall by some beefy security guards, and the host announced they were going to transform or be transformed. The first was a guy who got his forearms cut off and replaced with chainsaws or blades of some sort. The second was a large woman who somehow was turned into a giant squid, which was somehow disgusting, despite me not remembering the details or it being an abstract sort of procedure. There was another guy who was changed to look totally normal, very angry, and one of his feet had a lever on it, and a final weird creature I don't remember. So that was round 3, and I was disgusted and concerned. I then dreamed the host announced a break before the next round, and suddenly I was outside a random house on a bright sunny day, which was immediately comforting. It was then stripped away in almost an instant, back to the dingy chamber. The host announced Part 4 was beginning. We were back in the halls now, and every room now had a jail cell sort of door with a colored object inside and a small description. I don't remember the descriptions or how they were displayed. The gist was that everyone has to pick one of the doors, and then all the objects within them would be shuffled by color, and then we'd have to deal with whatever our new symbol presented. I think it was purple, white, yellow, and green, and each color contained a room with one of the monsters that was created in round 3. There were other options that didn't look good in every other door, so basically, you had to decide in like 5 minutes which set of colors had the least terrifying challenges based on vague descriptions, and then hope for the best when they shuffled. Some of the doors contained more doors. It was a challenge to choose the right door or else. Another door contained an ominous human-sized box with a lock on it. Most of the doors were abstract and didn't say much. And then, of course, there were the doors with the monsters in them. I settled on purple, and then the color that would be started with was randomly decided. I think it was white, but the important part was it wasn't me. One of my good friends had to go first and got the box, which they were locked into. It looked airtight, so I assumed they were just going to die, which was very distressing. Then, my sister was given a moldy bowl of dirt water and told to eat it. She did, but looked very repulsed and like she was going to be sick. Finally, an acquaintance from university was told he was going to be given surgery by the host and that he was going to switch his nose and one of his ears. For some reason, I assumed it would be an actual surgery. So when he just took a big knife and sliced off his ear in an instant, I was shocked. A few moments later, the same thing happened with his nose, and he was screaming and blood was pouring from his face. I didn't catch the rest because I was trying to escape. but was told I couldn't leave. Oh boy, that was graphic.
Wait, he cut off his own nose?
They cut off his nose, like they were gonna replace his nose with his ear and his ear with his nose or something.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was graphic.
This one, I mean, this nightmare is like all over the place.
Yeah, very chaotic.
I have to commend them though for remembering all that.
Yeah, that's a lot of detail.
Yeah, usually, like, this is one of those kind of weird ones as well that normally you wouldn't remember after the fact. So, kudos to them for that. I feel like there's almost too much there to interpret, and I think that I should probably just move on to nightmare number 6. But this is a post by a user named CRope8812. The post is titled, Weird Mix of Sleep Paralysis and Nightmare. The post reads, I was walking around at my dad's apartment complex, but the layout was off, and everything looked like a movie set. It all seemed indoors, even though it's not. The grass was replaced with felt, and there were giant lights and cables everywhere. I kept looking around and saw a ton of cats and mice, but instead of the cats attacking the mice were attacking each other. I found my dad's apartment and walked in holding a chair. Everything went to a weird gray color. Then I felt a hand on me. Then someone laying down on me. I thought it was someone trying to wake me up, but I saw a weird black figure next to me. I got goosebumps everywhere, and they started making weird gurgling, or backward talking noise. I couldn't move. I tried to open my eyes, but I couldn't, so I yelled and woke myself up.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I think the demon, like at the end of the dream, has many hallmarks of a sleep paralysis demon. So it's a shadow person, right? It's like a black figure. It has the gurgle / backwards talking, or like some people report hearing like a demonic voice from their sleep paralysis demon. Not being able to move, of course, the paralysis itself, and also a feeling of someone laying down on top of you or pressing down on you. That's very common in sleep paralysis. So you've got 4 sort of hallmarks of sleep paralysis there. But I think the deciding factor is, well, okay, they tried to open their eyes, but they couldn't. I feel like I would call this sleep paralysis, actually.
Yeah, because they're not very distinctive as when did they wake up and see the figure? Were you still asleep or were you awake? But like, I don't know, it's not very clear as to when they were awake. They saw this figure and it started making these noises. And then they yelled and woke up. Like, were you already awake? And then, like, I don't know, it's not very distinctive.
Yeah. And a lot of times also in sleep paralysis, you will have your eyes open, so you'll be able to like see that you're in your room, but that's not necessary for it to be sleep paralysis. Like, you can have hypnagogic hallucinations, they're called, from any sense. And in this case, they had like every sense but sight, so I think that we could probably count it.
Yeah. So scary, though.
Yeah. Would you like to read nightmare number 7?
Yes. Okay. This next post is by medium_impression, and it's titled, Did No One Else Notice? I was in Walmart with a bunch of friends, and towards the end of our trip, I looked in the bathroom mirror and saw a giant floating sack hanging next to my eye. It was clear, but it was veiny. I pulled it off and noticed small larvae inside that slowly grew to be big wasps. And I remembered some big had bitten me earlier that day.
I guess some bug.
Some bug.
Yeah. That's
okay.
Short but very disturbing. It kind
Yeah,
of
but
reminded me of like bot flies that lay their eggs under your skin and then they grow and hatch. And,
oh, you have so many disturbing facts.
yeah. I got another
Well,
one.
oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I wonder if they've watched that parasitic okay. So wasps, I would actually say, are some of the most disturbing creatures on the planet, like in terms of their like reproductive behavior. Not like yellow jacket wasps, but other more like, I don't, what's the word, exotic species of wasps. There's this one that will lay its eggs inside a live caterpillar, and then those eggs grow into larvae, and they develop inside the caterpillar, drinking its blood and whatnot. And then when they're old enough, they develop teeth, and then all at once they give off some signal to each other, and they all use their teeth to carve their way out of the caterpillar. And there's video footage of this happening, and it's like one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. Honestly, I think it's actually messed me up more. Like, I've watched videos of like beheadings and stuff online, and this messed me up more than that, honestly. Because it's like, yeah, like, just because there's a second part to it. So once the wasp larvae are out of the caterpillar has this chemical in its brain that's left over from like the wasp's reproductive fluids, and the chemical brainwashes the caterpillar to take care of the wasp larvae to the death. It literally will like use its silk that it's supposed to use for creating its own cocoon to become a butterfly. It uses that on the wasp larvae and builds that around them. And then,
Oh, that's so sick.
yeah, and then it will literally like defend them from predators until it dies of starvation.
That sounds like a great sci-fi movie that someone needs to make.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if that happened to like a human being, but the wasps were doing it to us?
I
Like,
almost
that would be freaky.
Yeah. I wonder if Medium Impression had seen that video or any of these like similar bug related videos. He was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but yeah, that would be a question that I have for him if he's still watching. But very disturbing and short but sweet. Yeah, I really liked that one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I have to say too about that one. It makes sense that she dreamed that because there was that bug that had bitten her, and so her subconscious turned it into that dream.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird.
Yeah. But I will now read nightmare number 8. And this is a post by a user named XX_lucidlinks_XX. The post is titled, My Recurring Nightmare. The post reads, I remember a dream from when I was like 4, I think. It still terrifies me to this day. I had a dream that my mother, who was a totally different person and not my real mom, was taking me out for a walk because we were bored and we lived in a cave for some reason. Then I saw this coffin on wheels outside, and I opened it and saw a puppet in it, and never watched or heard about Saw before. Then the next day I went to check in on it with nobody there, and it was replaced with my mother. I turned around and Saw jumped out at me and everything went black. That's when I woke up. One day I forgot about the dream though, and at like 10 I had it again, and I still don't know who Saw was. I told my older sibling what I saw, and he said, isn't that Saw? I think they mean the Jigsaw from the Saw movies. I said, I don't know. He looked up a picture of him and I screamed. That is the doll from my dream. And I've remembered that dream to this day.
Okay. Huh. I wonder what they could have connected to the Jigsaw puppet. Like, when did they see that? Because she started having this dream when she was 4?
Yeah. I feel like, in my opinion, they probably did see an image of Jigsaw somewhere in the world, and their subconscious remembered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. Recurring nightmares are strange.
The other thing that I wanted to comment about here is the fact that he mentions, or she, whoever it is, that they had a dream that their mother, who was a totally different person and not their real mother, which is an imposter in a dream. So an imposter in a dream can indicate that you suspect that that person in real life is untrustworthy or not who they appear to be. It could also be a warning to protect yourself, your information, or your psychological space. But it didn't really even seem to be the focus of the dream ultimately. Like, I guess maybe once the mother dies, they don't feel as sad because it wasn't their real mother. But yeah, I'm not really sure what the significance of that would be in this context, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Oh, and that jigsaw puppet is really creepy too.
For sure.
Oh.
Would you like to read Nightmare number 9?
All right. This next one is by Subby YT, and it's entitled, I never get nightmares, but this one genuinely terrified me. So my parents and I were on holiday, and there was this archway. We went through, and the archway reappeared. This time, I noticed there were monsters. I then pointed out to some omniscient being. These were from a small camera that was projecting bad things. My parents and I were on some kind of bridge with gates and had to show a different passport to get through. While doing so, my mom started to speak to me. She said that before I was born, she had another child, a girl called Wilson. As she was telling me that I was seeing her, just a head with a generic face and long brown hair. It then cut to her stitched on top of a body. My mom was explaining how everyone in our family took turns being Wilson. I started to cry as I screamed, I don't want to be Wilson. My parents ignored me. Finished my sentence, I was on a bunk bed and hit the mattress. It made a noise. I lifted the mattress and Wilson was there, asking me to play. She got up, contorting her body so her head and limbs were the correct way around. I fell off the bed and she fell above me, hands out, as if to grab me. It was then that I woke up. I'm 18 and haven't had nightmares for years. For some reason, this genuinely scared me enough that I couldn't get back to sleep. Wow. I think there's a lot of... Oh, go ahead.
No, you please.
I think there's a lot of underlying situations here, like in her subconscious.
Mm-hmm. I just can't get over the line, stitched on top of a body. That just keeps replaying in my head. Just, yeah, imagine...
Yeah, that's freaky.
Yeah,
that sounds like a premise for a good movie, too. Like your family wants you to take on the persona of this person, and then they act like it's normal. Yeah, we do this every year.
Yeah. I just keep imagining going down to the graveyard, digging something up, and then just getting sewn onto it.
Oh, it's freaky.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Interpretation. So, I don't know. I don't know. Like, what does Wilson represent? It's a child that anyone can be. Is it just like the parents' least favorite? Is that what it is?
Or maybe it was their expectation of what she thinks they wanted her to be. Ooh. And so her dream created the persona and was like, hey, you get to be her now. You know? I don't know, that's just my interpretation.
I think that's a good interpretation. Yeah. I like that.
Oh, I don't know. And maybe this happened or she's 18. This happened when she was 18. I don't know, maybe it was like an underlying thing just laying in her subconscious and she just now dreamed it.
True. I think in the interest of time, I'm going to move along to nightmare number 10.
Okay.
So this is a post by a user named CrackerboxPalace420. The post is titled, "Is this sleep paralysis?" The post reads, "This happened just now, but it isn't the first time. I dozed off while looking at Reddit. In my dream, it was as if I was awake. My boyfriend is at work right now, and so I'm alone at our place. I heard the door open and close, then footsteps. Things I normally hear when he comes home, only he's not off for another hour or so. So I was confused as to why he was coming home early. I attempted to get up, but I couldn't move. I was trying so hard to get that blanket off me. I fell asleep with the blanket covering me head to toe so I couldn't see anything, but I felt so weak. I felt hopeless, trying to move. I tried calling his name. Nothing comes out. I try yelling his name. Nothing. I get scared, wondering if it's even him who opened the door, wondering did I lock it? I got so scared. It got so intense I felt my fear in my head, pulsating. I tried so hard to let out any noise at all, and finally I woke up, yelling his name. I got the blanket off my head and listened for a sound. No one's home. Is this sleep paralysis? Has anyone experienced something similar? There are 2 other times that it's happened, which are pretty recent too. The first time something like this happened was earlier this year. I was deep in sleep, dreaming that I was in the apartment, sitting down, talking to a boyfriend about YouTube, my boyfriend about YouTube. In the middle of the conversation, I fall back uncontrollably and can't move at all, like I went stiff. I was like a statue that fell back. Then I wake up and see my boyfriend laying next to me. Just how it would look if I was actually awake. I tried calling his name, but couldn't. I tried moving. I could barely move at all. I was trying to let out any noise that I could. I got scared and really woke up this time, saying his name repeatedly. I was so confused because I thought I was already awake. I know this happened another time in between these 2 times, but I can't remember exactly what happened. All I know is that basically the same thing occurred. Edit. I remembered the second time it happened. It was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was dreaming I was in the bathroom. When I was done, I went to open the door. I got really weak and could barely move. I tried so hard to reach him and turn the doorknob, but I couldn't. I was able to grab it, but I couldn't turn it. So I attempted to call my boyfriend's name, but no sound came out. I tried screaming for help. No sound. I was sinking into the ground. I woke up, saying his name.
Oh boy. Well, something's going on with the boyfriend there. It seems to be the focus here.
I can actually probably dump something on that as well. So in my interpretation chart, which you will be able to see if you're looking at the stream, basically it's an amalgamation that I've compiled of various nightmare interpretations from the internet, from four common nightmares, and one of them is silent screams, which is very much a repeated theme in these nightmares. So that's where you're trying to scream as hard as you can and nothing's coming out, or you are like wheezing, like it's just not coming out right. And these can mean that you feel like you don't have a voice, or you aren't being heard in real life, or you feel helpless or frustrated with some situation. And as you mentioned, if this is in relation to the boyfriend, then that could be a bit of an explanation right there. Another thing that I wanted to say is that this is not sleep paralysis. It's definitely happening while you're asleep. If you were in sleep paralysis, you would be seeing your room or your surroundings. You would be more aware than you are in these cases. I think that, I guess it could be sleep paralysis, but I just think it's unlikely.
I think I agree with you. I don't think it's like full-on sleep paralysis, because there wasn't a moment where like they knew they were awake and they were looking around. Like, that didn't happen. She only woke up after she started screaming the boyfriend's name. So, yeah, so I agree with you on that.
But yeah, it could be like, I think that I like your interpretation of it, could just be like a feeling or a sense of a breakdown in communication with the boyfriend. That could be the cause of the nightmare.
Yeah. Like your brain when you're sleeping is sending you messages that you usually don't want to deal with that when you're awake. And then when you fall asleep, like it's your subconscious, like when you fall asleep, like your brain is like, hey, you forgot about this or you remember that, you know? And I think it's something that she might not be wanting to deal with, and it turns into these nightmares for her.
And then the other, again, I want to just tack on a nerd comment before we move on to the next one. But there's the term for what you're describing where you are very sure that you're waking up, but then it turns it to be a dream, especially when the dream is more elaborate. Again, I don't think it's sleep paralysis. It's a false awakening. So you feel like you're waking up, but you're actually waking up into the dream. That's the only comment I had about that.
So weird. That's so weird. Like how there's no way for you to be able to differentiate between the two. So that makes it. I think that makes it more scary because you're more anxious because you don't know how to tell the difference.
And you can also actually, fun fact, have hundreds of them in a row.
Oh my god.
Yeah, under certain circumstances, like coming out of like anesthesia or something like that.
You're gonna get an email from me later when I go to sleep tonight. Like, I had all these weird dreams.
Well, if you're emailing me in the dream, then I hope that my dream self has a good response for you and it doesn't turn into some
probably
nightmare.
You interpret the dream in my dream.
That'd be cool. Would you do us the honor of reading nightmare number 11?
This next one is by Randa Ped, entitled They Are Happy. The dream starts with my young brother and mother driving around 1 a.m. at some road and getting into an accident. And the next part is where things get weird. I found myself and my mother sitting in a living room of someone's house. I have no idea whose house it was. We, or I at least, start watching TV. What appeared on the TV screen seemed like an old recorded footage of an experiment that has gone too far. There was no sound at the background, but what sounded like sad music. And every time the unknown creators of the film wanted to tell something, a frame with a text would have appeared on the screen, just like in old movies. Quality was bad and the colors were gray too. It starts with showing pictures and videos of what seemed to be people, including children with weird and twisted body parts. Some of them looked so bad that they seemed inhuman. I felt sad for them, although I don't know what they have been through. I couldn't even tell whether some of them were dead or alive. It gets even more terrifying later, and I got to see them standing or sitting in positions that made them look alive, despite that some of them really look like dead bodies. Frame I remember seeing is of a person with no body parts, a skull and a giant backbone sitting on a couch. He almost looked like a skeleton. I wanted my mom to notice the horrifying shit I am watching, but she just wasn't there. Without knowing where she is, I wanted to shout and hopefully grab her attention. Every physical movement I was about to do took me 70 times more effort than it would take in real life, including breathing. It made me feel sick. I wanted to leave the room so bad, but didn't even bother making all these efforts. I have no idea why, but I decided to keep staring at the TV, although everything I saw made me feel sick. From this point, watching the film felt like torture. Fear I felt at this point wasn't like anything I felt before. I had dreams in the past where I died, or at least was about to die and feared for my life. but this fear was way beyond the others. A different scene appeared on the screen. The footage showed an old sandbox from a playground, probably, with two things in it. I couldn't tell whether these things were some sort of living creatures or twisted human body parts. They did not move until the wind made one of them move a little bit. Suddenly, a text frame appeared on the screen saying, "They are happy." Immediately after this frame, a picture popped up on the screen showing the face of one of the children I mentioned before, and that was the trigger that caused me waking up. I don't remember what his face looked like, just like 70% of this dream, but I do remember it looked so fucking inhuman, ugly, and detailed. Wow.
Any thoughts?
Weird. Well, now that reminded me of like an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever seen like the original Twilight Zone, the black and white Twilight Zone.
Nope.
No, oh, it's very interesting stories.
Share.
This reminded me of like an episode of that.
Okay.
So,
what happens in the episode?
well, not like any particular episode. I'm saying that this would make for a good episode.
Oh, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm like grilling you. Yeah, no, that's very creepy. I don't know. Nothing is really coming to mind for me, unfortunately. But yeah, very creepy nightmare. Thank you for letting me read it. And this post is by a user named TinyTown4. The post is titled Wolf Face. The post reads, "One time when I was ill, I had a dream where I was in my garden, but it was different and much longer, with hills around it. I remember realizing I was dreaming, so I tried to wake up, but I couldn't. Then, I saw a dark figure in a cloak, walking up one of the hills. I turned to go inside my house and felt something behind me. I turned back around, and the cloak figure was about a foot away, and hooded shroud with a wolf demon's face smiling at me. Then I woke up."
Okay.
That reminds me of that like classic creepypasta, Smile Dog.
Oh boy.
Do you know that one?
No.
Oh, okay. I feel like that's like one of the ones that gets like, among our circles, like a lot of people have read that one. But yeah, it's basically just like a dog that has like human-like teeth and smiles on it. Very simple imagery,
okay.
but it's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's scary.
Mm-hmm. Now, as for what this means, like, who knows? Like, it's really like there's no like stalking that's evidently happening. Difficult to interpret, but very scary nightmare indeed.
Yeah, and then the fact they realized that they were dreaming, they couldn't wake up. Like I think that's very common. That happens to people sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I guess that would be like a lucid nightmare, which of course adds it adds like a meta level to the fear, because you realize that it's a nightmare but you still can't wake up, which adds you realize that it's adding an element of real world danger, or a sense of real world threat, because you can't because there is something that's happening to you in the real world that you're aware of that you can't get out of. You're basically trapped within your own dream. So
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes it more scary.
Would you like to read Nightmare 13?
Okay. This next one is by Refill Queen, entitled Singing Man. Okay, I just woke up and still a little shook. I swear I've heard about this dude in real life. There was this YouTuber that made a video about him. Anyways, on to the story. All that I can really remember is watching this scary YouTube video about this Japanese singing guy who has this cover of him singing the national anthem or something similar on YouTube or iTunes. He's very normal looking, normal body, but very rolled back eyes and a very creepy smile. In the video, it pretty much explains how you summon him and his lore. What you would do to summon him is to repeat, "Sing for me, singing man," over and over again while exploring your house. So smart idea. I did that and he ended up summoning in my downstairs living room. We made eye contact. I said my final "sing for me," and he made this weird grunting sound and started chasing me. I started running as fast as I can up to my mom's room, because moms will always protect us from supernatural beings. And I hold the door shut with him banging on the door and trying to turn the knob. My mom was yelling at him to get by her, so I finally let go of the door and get behind her and just stares at us and runs away. That's when I woke up. I think I've already dreamt about this before. I swear this is a real thing or the video is real, but I can't think of the creator for the life of me. Let me know. Thanks. Edit. I was thinking about it. Dude kinda looked like the guy who sings Trollolol, but Asian. Maybe I just had a nightmare about the troll guy.
My question for the dreamer is, why did you summon him?
Oh, right.
What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, I think curiosity killed the cat for that one.
Yeah.
But at least it was in her dream and she didn't do it in real life.
True.
You know? That's creepy if that was like a real, I mean, I don't know. She thinks it's a real video somewhere on YouTube, but I don't know. I wouldn't try it either way.
Mm-hmm. If only we could recruit her to field test it for us in real life and see what happens.
Let us know how it goes.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, in terms of interpretation, it literally could just be the Troll guy, or it could be something that you watched on YouTube. Like, I feel like this is kind of one of those things where there are some pieces of like internet lore or like folklore or things where you hear it and you feel like, I feel like I've heard about this somewhere, but I can't put my finger on where.
Yeah, and it might not be like what you think it is. Like, it might be connected to something completely different. Yeah. But, you know, I don't know. Our dreams do interpret things differently too, so maybe it was something that maybe she did see something on YouTube and it connected it to that.
Yeah, and speaking of, like, I've had a similar experience to this as well, where, do you know Corpse Husband?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was, like, watching, he had this, like, 3-hour-long video that was about, like, stories from a park ranger, and he has, like, there are several stories in this video where it's a park ranger who keeps talking about how he keeps encountering random staircases throughout the forest that are perfectly intact and no one knows how they got there. And those stories, like, creeped me out harder than, like, almost any story I've heard, like, on YouTube. And it's because partly I feel like I've seen that somewhere. I feel like I've seen stairs. Like, when you tell me about stairs in the woods that are just randomly there, I feel like I've seen them before, like, in person. But I can't actually, like, bring up the memory of it happening, you know?
Like, you've seen those stairs in real life somewhere?
Yeah, like, it's scratching something at the back of my mind that, like, oh yeah, those stairs, like, I've seen them too. But, like, they're, like, weird stuff happens if you climb up them. Like, you're never supposed to go near them if you encounter a random staircase in the woods.
Yeah, that's, like, there's, like, a whole, like, following to that people do research on it because I mean, it's something real. Like, they're just out in the middle of the woods And I mean, it's really weird. Our world is very strange, and there's a lot of mysteries out there. And if I found stairs in the middle of the woods or something, I definitely would run in the opposite direction.
Yeah. And that's how I feel about this singing guy. Wouldn't try to summon him.
No, definitely not.
All right. So this is nightmare number 14. And it's by a user named Pururina. And the post is titled The Loop. The post reads, I often have a dream that haunts me. It comes back in short intervals, or sometimes months pass before it happens again. It's always in my parents' home, but now it's happened to me at my boyfriend's place. I tried Googling my dream to see if I was just dreaming of a bad movie I saw or a story I read a long time ago, but I can't find anything. It's like some people write a letter and burn it to leave something in the past behind them. I'd like to try and share my story and leave my dream behind me. I'm in a bedroom of a house I'm unfamiliar with. I don't feel afraid or anything, so I continue to explore the house to see if there's a way out. There are 4 other doors besides the bedroom door, one to a bathroom which is already open, one closed right next to the bathroom which I have looked in and seems to be just a bedroom, and one door leads to a stairway that is inside a building going down 2 sets of stairs, but the door to go outside is firmly locked. The last door of the house is firmly locked, which I thought was weird because I was pretty sure I saw the door slightly move and close itself just when I got out of the bedroom I was staying in. I firstly thought this was because of an open door being moved by air pressure due to me opening the bedroom door I was in, but then I realized there are no windows in this house. For some reason, I never thought of it as maybe there's another person in there, nor did I think there would be a window there. I still didn't feel afraid in this situation, but with nothing else to do, I took a bath in the bathroom. When finally leaving the bathroom, the firmly locked door was slightly open. Of course, I was too curious to not check it out, so I entered through the slightly open door. For some reason, I closed the door behind me after entering. It was a small L-shaped bedroom with a dark red paint on the walls. There was a dim light, and I could see at the end of the bed around the corner. As I walked towards the bed, I stopped mid-track once I saw a black mass, an abomination, with multiple limbs sticking out from it, sitting on the bed, with a part of its mass hanging over the edge of the bed, drooping onto the floor. I was mortified. I wanted to leave through the door. I had just pushed the handle and wanted to open the door, but it was too late. The black mass reached out to me from the other side of the room, pulling me in and ripping me apart. I could feel my intestines being ripped out and everything turns black. And then I wake up. I'm in a room I'm unfamiliar with. Part 2. Sometimes I leave the building. I go down the stairs, exiting through the door going outside. It's summer, and I see a group of kids around age 14 or 15. I'm 23 myself. Turns out they're my classmates, and I'm also their age. There's a bus and a teacher that seems kinda strict. We're going on a field trip, so everyone gets onto the bus. I get on last, but there's only one more spot left at the back of the bus. There are a lot of boys sitting there and one blonde-haired girl. She seems popular. She offers me some candy, but I refuse. She's really persistent. Sometimes I take the candy, sometimes I don't. Lately, during COVID, she offers me a face mask, but I always refuse this one because something in me tells me I should not take the face mask. The bus ride continues, and I get food offered multiple times by the different boys sitting around me. I kindly refuse, since I find their way of persistence kind of unsettling. I always thought they were trying to drug me for some reason. We arrive at a green field, surrounded by trees. There are houses further down, and it feels like kind of an urban neighborhood. Something in me tells me to go home. I feel uncomfortable, and I don't want to leave the bus. Most of the kids leave the bus. The blonde girl asks me to come with, and I tell her I don't want to. She then also leaves the bus. The teacher comes up to me. She doesn't seem very strict anymore. She's soft-spoken and is holding her hands together. Her voice trembles a bit and asks me to leave the bus. For some reason, I comply and leave the bus. Outside the bus, I see a group of boys standing and some other classmates close together, near the edge of the field near the bus. The blonde girl starts walking up to me. Every inch of my body tells me to run. I back up, trying to create space between us, and she starts walking faster. Her torso starts to contort, and she breaks a new pair of arms through her skin. I'm terrified and start running. I hear bones crack and skin rip behind me. I suddenly get lifted into the air. I now face the black mass again. I see my classmates stand in the distance. They're just watching. I'm scared of what's to come next, so I close my eyes, and I can feel her rip out my organs. I open my eyes again. I'm in an unfamiliar room. I know this looks very much like some sort of creepypasta or made-up horror story, but it's a dream I actually experience. It terrifies me, and I wish for it to go away. Even writing this makes me tear up and cry. I just want it to stop.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah. I feel like the...
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was just going to say, I feel like the toughest cookie to crack here is figuring out what the black mass represents.
Yeah. It's funny because when you were saying when she was in that house, she decides to take a bath, and I'm over here like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah, I guess nightmare logic.
Why would you take a bath? Like, aren't you scared?
Mhm.
But yeah, this, I don't know what the black mass, what it could mean. Like I always go to some sort of like underlying anxiety that she has that's like attacking her in her nightmare.
Mhm.
But even, and it's funny how it transcended to two different kinds of dreams. You know, the one where she's in the house, and then the other one where she's on the bus. But it's still the same figure. Oh,
I feel like
that's interesting.
our clues are where it appears. So it appears on the bed, but it's like a bed behind some forgotten door in her house. And then the other clue is the popular girl becomes the thing.
Yeah, that's definitely freaky. So, and then it's like it's her classmates from when she was a kid. So, and then the forgotten door in the house. So it's almost like it doesn't want to let go of being in some sort of nightmare that she has.
For sure. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Kath J in the chat said, I would definitely climb stairs I found in the woods.
Yeah, make sure you have a camera and let us know how it goes.
Yeah, I feel like that camera, like, the footage from that camera will just appear as one of those random strings of numbers that's broadcasted in from outer space somewhere. Like, some really creepy thing's gonna end up becoming of that.
I don't know. What if it's like a pathway to like an alternate reality or something? Like you get up to the stairs and there's a door, but there's no door like where the stairs are. It's just a random stairs.
I know. They really creep me out.
Yeah.
Would you do the honor of reading the final nightmare for this evening?
Okay. The final post is by Irmo Mobji, and it's entitled My Only Nightmare. It begins in my bedroom at my old house. I wake up feeling that something is wrong. Sunlight is really bright, and everything is completely quiet. I feel alone and scared. There's nobody in my house. I start hearing slow footsteps outside in the street, and a little girl crying softly. These two sounds were the only thing I could hear. They echoed loudly through the air. The rest was silent. No cars, no people talking, no wind. I recognized the voice. The little girl was my sister. I felt anxious and almost paralyzed from fear. I managed to go outside. I was at my street, which is really narrow with white houses on the sides. The bright light reflected on the houses, hurting my eyes. At the end of the street, I saw an old woman from behind, hunched and dressed in black, the veil. She was holding my sister in her arms. She wasn't crying anymore. It looked like she was asleep, completely vulnerable. A feeling of dread surrounded me. I thought she wanted to eat her, and every step forward took a lot of effort. I started quietly following the old woman. I needed to save my sister. The woman calmly entered a house and disappeared in the dark. Not being able to see my sister made me feel lonely, and I sprinted towards the door. I peeked my head in. I see a dark living room with a bright window at the end of it. I see the silhouette of the old woman sitting down in a rocking chair, holding my sister. She is looking me in the eyes with an evil smile. Next thing, I wake up with my cheeks covered in tears, completely traumatized. The cool thing is that I've just learned today that this Old Hag figure is a common theme in human dreams. I've had more dreams with her in other locations. One was in a forest. Even though it doesn't sound that scary, I've had vivid images of this dream engraved in my memory, especially from the dark living room. I was scared shitless of this bitch as a kid, and my eyes still get watery when I visualize everything. I would love to know about similar nightmares, so don't hesitate to share. The classic Old Hag.
Yeah? Do you know of the Old Hag?
I've heard many stories about it, and I know it has a connection with sleep paralysis as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's strange because people that have like intense sleep paralysis and experience something like the Old Hag, there's so many people that have this kind of experience. But then there's still people that think that it's a figment of their imagination or something they conjured up in their, in their dream state. I'm like, come on, there has to be something to it. Because it's too many people having the same experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a big thing to say about that. But before I get into that, I just wanted to say this nightmare, I think, is just about feeling protective of her sister. I think it's a pretty simple interpretation. But yeah, the Old Hag. So this is like pretty much like the oldest documented sleep paralysis demon. I think way back in like my episode 3 of Nightmare Theater, like back in October, I did talk about the Old Hag, and it's one of these. There are actually like accounts of it in the Ynglinga Saga, which is like this very old like Norse text from like the 1100s or something, where there's an account of a witch in Finland using magic to summon an old hag to carry out an assassination on a Swedish king. And basically how it's described is he went to sleep. First of all, he had basically the story goes that he met a woman in Finland, and he promised to return to her when he went back to Sweden, but he never returned. And so the woman in Finland was upset, of course, and so she went to a witch, hired the services of a witch, and the witch said, okay, well, I'm going to make him come back, and if I can't make him come back, I'll kill him. And that was an agreement that she had. So basically at first the man was overwhelmed with this sudden urge to go to Finland when the witch began her spell. And the man resisted this, and his advisors advised him against going to Finland. Don't go to Finland. And then when this didn't work, the man, he went down to sleep one night, and basically the old hag, it said, trode upon his chest or his head, and then his advisors rushed into the room, and they held onto his chest, and they held onto his head, and they held him up. And when they did that, the old hag would then tread upon his legs, and he was screaming, and it was invisible, and nobody could see it. And then his advisors ran over to his legs and held his legs, and then the old hag fatally pushed down on his head, killing him. That's how the story goes. So that's pretty intense. I mean, that's a historical account, supposedly, of a sleep paralysis demon killing someone, and it was the old hag. So,
wow, she's been going around for a while now.
Yeah, if the poster sees that story, that might make her feel worse about her nightmares. But I feel like
I don't think that would make her feel better to know that she's been around since 1100.
But I feel that she needed to know. So that's it for the nightmares this week. Thanks very much to my guest, Marie Lives the Horror, for joining me. Please check out her channel. She does lots of paranormal readings and other sorts of horror narration on her channel. Highly recommend you check that out. I also did a collab with her yesterday on there, so you'll see me over there. And yeah, I had a brief announcement, actually, before I hand it over to Marie for closing remarks. I just wanted to give a brief announcement about Nightmare Theater. So I am planning to move it from once a week on Sunday night to once a month on Sunday night. And this will start after next week, so there will be a show next week, but then I'm going to be not having the show in the weeks following. And so basically, I think I'm going to do the first Sunday of every month or the second Sunday of every month. I'll get back to you on that next week once I've figured that out. But I just feel like if you're looking for a reason, I think that, well, there's many reasons, but I feel that, first of all, I need to finish my PhD, which I'm still doing. And I'm also working on a book that I really wanted to get done by the end of the summer, and the book is done, but I just need to get through the editing, which I really hate, and so the extra time would help with that. And then also just, I feel like I wanted Nightmare Theater to be more about interacting with the guests who are watching primarily the videos, and I think that what is actually happening is that it's sort of two separate audiences, and I kind of want to prioritize the stories on the channel. And in case you weren't aware, I write all the stories on my channel, so I just wanted to focus on the writing primarily. So and on the book writing as well. So that's really what's happening there. Once again, thank you so much to my guest Marie for coming out. Any final thoughts, Marie?
Well, thank you very much for having me on. The nightmares were really interesting to read live and have you interpret them and give me a lot of facts I have to go and think about now before I go to bed.
Fair enough.
So, and yeah, I hope to collab with you in the future, and hopefully you can have me back on at some point and we can do this again. Mm-hmm. And, very good luck to you with your book. I hope you get to finish that.
Thanks so much. And in the chat, it's not really horror. It's like adventure fantasy, but it takes place in hell, so it has some very horrific elements. Anyway,
that sounds great.
I'll talk more about it in the future. But yeah, thanks once again to everyone for coming out. And until next time, embrace the beautiful dark.